start the tape. All right, we're about ready to go. Anybody have to volunteer to open us in prayer tonight, just for good measure? All right. Thanks.
Heavenly Father, I thank you for another opportunity, Lord, to stop, Lord, and to really gather our wits about us, and to devote some time to studying your word. And Lord, I pray that we will be able to think clearly, Lord, so that we may be able to understand Dr. Stanley. I pray that he will speak clearly and help him to really eloquently put all the information so we may remember it. Or help him to help us forget it so we can remember it later. Lord, we love you and we thank you for all you're doing in our life. Amen.
Amen. Thanks. Well, I hope you have a sense that the frantic work is over. Do you have that? Do you have that sense? The frenetic pace is behind us, and we can kind of relax a little bit and read the Bible and have some fun. Are you feeling that way?
When I get to class, I feel that way more than when I'm trying to translate.
Yeah, well, it's still, it's still a bit of a challenge, I know, but you're getting better, right?
I think so.
Yeah. By the time you get through the reading part of it, you'll have a lot of it right under your belt. You'll be good to go. All right, I think we're on chapter 32, aren't we? Page 367, the Hoffel stem. The only real complication here is that there are a couple of different options. Of course, you're going to have a hey prefixed in the perfect, and you may have a kibbutz or a kametz under the hey. Remember, in the Hiphil, we're getting a vowel under the performative. Right? We've got our vowel, A-class vowel under the performative that is indicating Hiphil. And now we have our kibbutz or kametz k'tuv, so really you have an O-class vowel. Unless you want to call a kibbutz a U-class vowel. But basically you have an O-class vowel underneath the performative for the vowel. So you can see the diagnostics for the perfect. You can see the diagnostics for the imperfect vowels under the performative, just like a Hiphil. Because this really is the passive form of a Hiphil, right? The Hiphil is causing an action, and this is a passive of that. So if himlik means he made someone king, in the Hoffel form, homlock actually, would be translated he was made king. So that's fairly straightforward. All right, Hoffel participle, you got a main prefix, and either a kibbutz or a kametz k'tuv under the main. So that's pretty straightforward, eh? And there are other forms, if they occur, they're very rare. So we're going to look at the perfect, the imperfect, and the participle. And it's a fairly rare stem anyway. Only a couple of vocabulary words, interesting devotional stuff, and some advanced information. Verbal hendiatus. There are several literary devices that are used in the Old Testament. Many literary devices, really. And one of them is hendiatus. Now, if you've had Greek, you probably know what hendiatus means, right? Hendiadis. 1 through 2. So one concept communicated through two words. You see it in the New Testament, too. So look for this in the Bible. These examples to me were a little bit unclear. But maybe we will see some later. We're going to take a look at some verses from 1 Kings. And I think there are some examples in there we might be able to find of hendiatus. All right, weak verbs. There are some variations in some of the weak verbs. Still, you basically have the same pattern as you have in the strong verbs. Again, though, when you have the first position yod weak verbs, like on page 379, you can see what's happening. The yod literally lengthens. Not lengthens in a linguistic kind of sense, but lengthens in a graphical kind of sense, right? From a little yod, the tail gets long and it becomes a vav. Where we see this before, you end up with a holem vav in that position. Now, because we are used to seeing the kibbutz, the U class vowel in the hafel, instead of a holem vav, we end up with a shirik. Do you see that on page 379? So just bear that in mind, and you'll probably be all right with it. Okay. Questions on the hafel? The hafel is not too awful. Kind of tempting just to finish all these things up in one go, isn't it? You don't have too many. You do not have too many vocabulary words in those two chapters. How are you doing the vocabulary words in the other chapters? Let's see. See, look how short those vocabulary lists are getting. Look on page 397. See the first vocabulary word? Does it look familiar?
397?
Yeah. Huh? Yeah, there you go. So we'll look at that and we'll find that one tonight. All right, Introduction to the Hebrew Bible, chapter 36. We're finally going to get to look at our Bible. That's going to be fun. I don't know how one would stand to wait until that point of the text before they looked at their Bible. But there's good information in there. Okay, any questions on the hafel? Very good then. Let's take our Bibles then and turn to 1 Kings, chapter 3. I think it's beginning in verse 9. I told you I'm preaching one sermon from each book of the Old Testament, week by week, right? So the last 3 weeks we've had a sermon on Saul, then David, now Solomon for last Sunday. So that comes out of 1 Kings, chapter 3. Chapter 3? Is that what he said? Yes, sir. Page 564. I'm trying to remember the verses in my head. I think it's 3:9 where we start. All right. Does anybody want to take a shot at verse 9? See if you can deal with any of this. I know it's off the top of your head. I should be able to help you with it. Now, just to set it in context, this is where God appears to Solomon and asks Solomon, or tells Solomon he can ask for anything he wants. And here's what Solomon asks for. It's kind of interesting to read this in Hebrew.
We'll give it a shot, I suppose.
Okay.
And.
Great.
You're up.
Okay.
Give.
Okay, now let's look at this for a second. That's right, Natan. A lot of times, Natan is going to do different things, right? With noons dropping out and some things like that. And so that's what we have here. So we have a perfect, 2ms, right? Cal perfect, but with a reversing vav. And so this is like a future used imperatively. But it's not like he's commanding God. It's really a request, right? You will give, right? We do that in English, like we look at our kids and say, you will clean your room by 1 o'clock. Well, that's a command. It's a future, but it's used as an imperative. But here we have to take it as a mild kind of imperative or a request because he's addressing God. So he's not commanding God, right? But go ahead.
All right.
And give to your servant.
Okay. And anybody wants to jump in and help, go ahead.
No, I know the words. I'm just trying to figure out how to.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Heart or mind.
Okay. Okay, what do you think? This is
I think it's from Shema.
Shomea. Okay, it's from Shema. All right, then now this is good review. Now with an ion on the end, that potok, what would you call that potok? And it's scooted over to the right a little bit to help you.
Furtive.
It's a furtive potok. So we have a Shomea. Well, the furtive potok is stuck in there just because there's an ion on the end of it, so it really doesn't have anything to do with the form of it, parsing of it, right? So kind of ignore that for the parsing. You see what I'm saying? So now we have, this is a very good review, we have Shomea. Do you see any indication here beyond vowel points that this is not a cow?
No.
And that's what you should kind of look for. Do you actually see anything that indicates?
Beyond vowel points? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Like there's no yod.
There's no performative.
There's no
I
dogged.
mean, a cow can have a yod. Yeah, but there's no doggish that you wouldn't expect. There's no doggish period. So there's nothing assimilated. There's no performative like a main or a hay or a noon for nifal or other derived stems, right? So not dealing yet with the vowel points, right? Apart from vowel points, there really isn't anything here that indicates that this is not a cow, is there? All right. And the only reason this is not the vocabulary form is that we have different vowel points. So, do the vowel points indicate that we have anything other than a cow?
I don't think so.
Well, what would it indicate? What are vowel points? Vowel points alone, you could have a PAO with vowel points alone, but in that case you'd expect a doggish in the middle root letter, which we don't have. Okay, so we don't have a PAO. You could have a nifal, but you would expect a performative if we had a nifal, and we don't have a performative, right? So really, there's no, you can't really justify any other derived stem besides a cow here, so it is a cow. You know what it is, don't you?
I do. I'm just checking myself.
All right. All right. And you even knew before you checked. All right. Very good. So do you remember this? This is good because you've forgotten this, haven't you? And now we're going to remember it, and so you're that much closer to having it forever. Right? Tell us what it is. Pardon?
First of the masculine singular cow.
Active or passive? Active. Passive participle would be marked by the shurik. Could be a kibbutz possibly, probably a shurik, right? After the second root letter. But cotail, the holum and the tsere, that's the vowel pattern for a cow active participle. It doesn't have an ending, so it's masculine singular. It could have an ending and be feminine or plural or something, right? So, how would you translate that?
I would say give to your servant a listening heart or obedient heart.
Well, excellent. And that's a very good point because is listening involved here? Yeah. Is it possible that without moving off of listening, does it also drive further to the idea of obedience? Now we'll talk about that. Because Shema, to hear, is also used in Hebrew Bible to mean to obey. In the very same way that we do it, or at least a similar way to the way we do it in English, with our kids again. Did you hear me? Now, we're not wondering whether they really literally heard us. We're wondering whether they acted upon what they heard. See? And so when we hear Yahweh, the context may be indicating that it goes much further than just actually orally hearing something, but actually acting upon what we've heard.
Kind of like listening. You're listening for a reason.
Right. Yeah. So you will give, or you could even say, give to your servant a listening heart. Go ahead.
To judge.
to judge. And what do you think that is?
What's that?
How would you parse that one?
I would say it's an infinitive. Right?
Yeah, it is an infinitive, absolute or construct?
Absolute.
Or
Construct.
construct. What's the vocabulary word?
Shafat.
All right, so it has a prepositional prefix, and that can only happen in a verbal on an infinitive construct. The only verbal that can take a prepositional prefix is an infinitive construct. Absolute can. All right, and that's the vowel pattern we're looking for an infinitive construct. Lishfot. All right, so to judge, that's the definite direct object marker. When you're looking at a word, your mind hopefully is learning to operate almost in two tracks simultaneously. What's the vocabulary word and what's stuck onto this word?
I see a second person heading.
Yeah, so you're seeing the 2ms pronominal suffix, so that just jumps out at you.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what the root is.
Yeah, so there it is.
Oh, your people.
Right.
Okay. I was trying to put a third consonant in there somewhere. All right, to judge your people.
Now, let me stop you. Is everybody pretty much tracking with this? You realize what we've done here? We've opened to a passage in the Hebrew Bible that you have never seen before in Hebrew. No dictionary, all right? Tiny help from me on parsing. But even beyond that, you could have translated it without even being able to necessarily perfectly parse it, right? And you're translating it, right? Now, is this the hardest verse in the Hebrew Bible? No. But, see, that's pretty nifty, isn't it? See, here you go. Just open up your Bible and you read away. All right, now, let's see if you can deal with the next word here.
I'm going to say, for the understanding, maybe. And I think it's an infinitive construct, but it also has a definite article in there.
You're close until you got to the definite article part. Okay, what's the law? What's the law?
Preposition.
Prepositional prefix. Are you going to have a prepositional prefix and a hey if there's a definite article?
I doubt it.
No, you're going to have a potok under the lamed instead of the hey if you have a prefix. Remember, if you have a prepositional prefix, you drop the hey and change the vowel underneath the prepositional prefix. You'd expect a shiva under a prepositional prefix, just like you have right here. But if you wanted to put in a definite article on it, you put a potok under that. And there may be reasons to lengthen that potok to a comma, depending on what's happening in the word itself. Right? You would have a dogish forte in the first root letter in that case. But we do not have a dogish forte in that. Well, we could anyway because it's a hey, but we do not have a potok under the lamed. And in case, if you think it's an infinitive construct, you're not going to have a definite article on that.
Okay.
So that hey is doing something else there.
Is it a copal then?
Huh? Well, it actually turns out to be a hifil.
Okay.
And, that the hirik yod on that word gives you the clue that it's a hifil. It's not a kamas ketuf.
Okay.
And so, we didn't look at our, I'm Curtis to have that open, we didn't look at our chart. But you wouldn't expect a popular infinitive construct anyway because they'd be too rare, right? So you don't even get the chance to see what that's going to look like. So it's going to mean to understand, or in this context I want to translate it to discern.
Okay.
Now, in Greek we talked about infinitives of purpose and result and all this kind of stuff, right? What kind of infinitive would this be? Well, probably an infinitive of purpose. Why does he want a hearing heart to judge God's people? Well, for this purpose, to discern. Okay, so carry on.
Okay. Discern between good Say and evil, but
Yeah, well, and it's a little bit idiomatic here because, you're having a between good and then ra, so that the between and la are kind of working together to get between good and evil, in the way we translate it. Okay.
that
Or because
what?
No, ma is what? He is who? Who is he? He is she. Ma is what? And me is who? I think I did it in a different order, but who is he? He is she. Me is who, and ma is what? That's the way. Me. So me is who? Interrogative. So because who?
Because who?
You know the vocabulary word?
Is it Yakal?
Yakal. So we have that graphically lengthened yod there.
Okay.
You know what Yakal means? Have we had that vocabulary? I think we have. Yakal, we should have. He is able.
Oh, yeah.
He able. Okay. So, because who is able?
Who will be able to judge your people?
All right. Ha kaveh. Does that ring any bell?
Yes, the glory or honor or heaviness.
Okay. And hazeh.
Huzzah was. Oh wait, no, that's this.
This. Okay. In English, you got to put the your someplace else, right? So in English, you'd have to say to judge this heavy people of yours. Heavy. The idea here is probably numerous, numerous and important, probably related to the numbers, right? So this is an important and weighty, numerous, a lot of people, and they're important. That's the kind of the idea here. So who is able to judge this numerous people of yours? You might say in English.
That's what Einspark translates it.
Mm-hmm. Right? All right, very good. All right, anybody want to carry on? Don't be too freaked out. You'll know these words.
That's pretty short. I go for it. Like 5 words long.
Mm-hmm.
Top. Love here. What is it? That's not good.
It is. It's yatav, to be good.
Please. The speaking or the speech? The bar. The speak.
The word. Even the matter. The thing. You could even say, it's referring to his request. So you could even say that the request was pleasing. That's pretty good English, right?
That next word.
Oh, ba'ainai. No, sorry, ba'aine. You said it right. Not even ba'aine. Ayin. Construct, masculine construct, plural we have here. Could even be dual. You know ayin? What? I. So this is, it was good. The request was pleasing.
the eyes of the Lord.
In the eyes of the Lord. Okay, then we have the ought not.
Because all
to ask. So there's just your Cal Perfect, your MS. So who asked?
Solomon.
Okay, Shalomo asked.
One of the three stooges, Solomon. He didn't make it. Ed. Adavah. To the matters of this.
So what's a good translation? I'm trying to do the whole verse.
In this matter of the matter be pleasing to the Lord, because Solomon asked of this matter, or about this matter.
Yeah, well, you might say, and the request was pleasing in the eyes of the Lord because Solomon asked for this request. Hebrew's a little bit repetitive.
Can be.
All right. Who wants to take on number 11?
I'll try it. And God said,
Make it too hard.
That to him. And God said to him, Ya'ad.
Ya'an. Give us a,
Yeah.
what does Zion's Bar say about that one?
It's one of our vocabularies.
It is all.
All right. Here you might call it, well, Ya'an and Asher is kind of working together. You might translate those two as sense. Okay, he said to him,
Okay.
since.
And God said to him, since you asked for this thing or
Yeah.
concerning this.
Mm-hmm. And if we want to be consistent with how we're translating that in this context, we would say since you asked for this request, but this thing is just fine. Yeah.
Since you asked for this request, and you did not ask for yourself,
Yom sound familiar?
So would that be plural? Days?
Mm-hmm.
You don't ask for yourself days. Rabim. Many days.
Yep.
And you do not ask for yourself
Anybody help him? Help her. Osher,
Sounds like a song.
but it means riches, wealth.
And you don't ask for yourself riches, and did not ask, beauty,
Nefesh, health, soul or life. Oyaveka. I know the Ka is going to be the two M's. You did not ask for the life of your enemy. Yeah. Do not ask for the life of your enemies. Now, is this definite? The life of your enemies? There's no definite article, but is it definite?
Probably.
Yeah, because the two MS pronominal suffix makes it definite. Your enemies, the life of your enemies. All right. And
you ask for yourself. This one. Understanding.
Yep.
Something from
Lashamoa.
From judgment?
Isn't
Mishpat.
Mishpat is the judgment.
That's right. That's judgment.
So, Lishmoa. This was what I did, wasn't it?
So you did ask for yourself discernment to Shema.
So is that the obey kind of concept there?
Yeah. So to hear or obey judgment or justice. All right. Remember, he asked for a hearing heart to understand. Notice how Solomon put it. What did he want? Give to your servant a hearing heart to judge your people, to discern between good and evil. Now we have, you did ask for discernment. He's got it going the other direction, back, different, reversed, the order. To discern, but you did ask for discernment to hear judgment or justice. To obey, to hear judgment, or to obey justice, or something like that. All right. Now, verse 12. You may be amazed by what we find out in verse 12. Looks like it's up to you, Tim. Behold, Tim.
Behold.
Remember, a lot of times in the perfect, a vocabulary word that ends in hey, that hey gets turned to a yod. Remember that?
I still don't remember the vocabulary word.
Asa.
To give or to make.
To do or make. Okay.
Behold, to do.
So here we have a cal perfect, one cs, so asa, to do or make. Like ta, t.
Now we're back to the devar.
Right.
This matter. To do this matter. To do
Well, yeah, I will do, and then what's the cough there? What does cough mean? Pronominal or prepositional prerogative.
In, for.
It means
Like as.
Or according to.
According to, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. So I will do.
According to this matter.
Yeah. But here you might want to revert back to words. I will do according to your words. Right? And if you want to really get fancy in English, I will act according to your words or whatever. Right? I will do according to your words. All right?
Behold.
Behold.
Speak from the tongue.
Right?
Give.
Mm-hmm.
You.
Okay, who's going to give? Behold.
I will give.
Okay. Or it's perfect. You could even translate that past tense. Behold, I gave. I have given.
Okay. My heart.
Well, what's lakah? You recognize the ka? You recognize the la? Two separate things. I have given to you.
To you.
Yeah, two-minute suffix, right? Ka. You see, notice that? Okay, so I've given to you lave,
Heart.
a heart, a chacham. No, that's not a ha, that's a cha.
Oh. Still in bigger print.
Still need bigger print, I know.
Chacham. Not ringing the bell.
Chokmah? Related to that? Helping? Yeah, here wise. I have given you a wise heart.
Behold, I have given you a wise heart, and I'm giving you
Navon. Any guesses? Noon's a performative.
Oh. Is it from being?
Yes, it is.
what is it?
It's from being. Discernment. So we have a nifl.
Like how we ended up there?
Yeah, I believe it's a nifl infinitive construct. So I've given to you a wise heart and discernment.
Now, how are we getting discernment out of that?
Well, I think it's a nifl infinitive construct. Is that right, Colby?
Infinitive construct.
Vanavon.
And discernment from Vanavon.
And discernment. Imperative or infinitive?
Yeah, discern.
I think it's an infinitive. Nifl what?
Tiptoe? Qual? I don't know what I'm looking for.
Well, wait a minute. It couldn't be an infinitive construct. It would take a hey.
It's a.
I got myself confused on that. It could be an infinitive absolute, but. And I think that might be what it is. Nifl infinitive absolute. Is that what it
It
is?
just says nifal.
It looks like an absolute.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a hifil.
But anyway, it means discernment.
What do we got? We got a
Well,
comma.
there aren't many things that take a noon performative. And that's why the EB is the bone, because of the formation of the nifl infinitive absolute takes a.
I went off the problem on my way up. chart here.
All right. But anyway, it's translated discernment. So I will give to you a wise heart and discernment. And the rest of this is a little bit tricky. This is, that. Okay, you know what kamoka is? That like you, there was not before you, so there was no one before you like you, and after you there will not rise up one like you, is what this means. One will not rise up like. So there wasn't not going to be anybody like you before you or after you.
So what's kamoka?
Like you.
From what? How do you get that?
Well, you've got the cough and the 2MS and
What's the name and the home hub?
So,
well, we have to look it up to see what's actually going on, because now you're asking hard questions. If you're looking at Holiday 159, page 159, Kamo, that means just like. Then you got a 2MS suffix on
Okay. I thought it was something with the preposition ka.
Well, it does form like that probably. I mean, the preposition ka, and I don't know why the name is in there, but it obviously does play off of that preposition thing, so that's how it's formed, I'm not sure. So, what's the significance here? Do you see anything that jumps out at you when we read these, in terms of interest or significance?
He was very special guy.
What kind of heart did Solomon ask for? Discerning? Well, no, he didn't ask for a discerning heart. He asked for a certain kind of heart that he might discern between good and evil.
Listening heart.
And that's interesting by itself. He asked for a listening heart. That's not how the New American Standard translates that. How does the New American Standard translate that?
A discerning heart.
And go ahead and read the rest of it. The discerning heart.
So that there has been no one like you before you.
Oh, no. We're looking at verse 9, sorry.
Okay. Oh, verse 9. Your people to discern between good and evil. For who is able to judge?
No, before that, before the discern good and evil.
An understanding heart.
An understanding heart. Okay, so the New American Standard says an understanding heart. What is it here, though? A hearing heart. Right? And so then God says, I like your request. You didn't ask for all these other things that were selfish, but you asked for yourself discernment to understand, or not to understand, to hear judgment or justice. All right? So that's interesting by itself. That understanding, if that's translated to understanding, where does understanding come from? Now, where does the ability to discern between good and evil come from? In the context of counseling or judging or leading or something like that. Where does the ability to discern between good and evil come from?
Heart.
Your
heart.
Well, the heart, but what kind of heart? Listening.
Hearing.
And maybe push it beyond listening to obedience. Right? Do you have and maybe this is a 1 for 2. Do you have a listening and obedient heart? Isn't that interesting? So where does discernment come from in the way we're talking about it here? Where is discernment going to come from? Well, it comes from a listening, obedient heart. Now, I think that's pretty critical when it comes to someone in leadership, because in leadership you want to have discernment, don't we? Well, don't we want to have discernment as Christians anyway, right? So especially if you're a Christian leader, you need to have discernment. Where's that discernment going to come from? If you follow Solomon's example, then you will have a listening, obedient heart. A heart that listens to God and is obedient to God, but also a heart that listens to other people. Example, remember when the two moms who were actually prostitutes came, one rolled over on her baby and it died, so when she got up and realized her baby was dead, in the middle of the night before the other mom woke up, she switched the babies, and the other mom woke up and boom, her baby's dead. But she realized, hey, this really isn't my baby. The other mom switched babies, and she denied it and wouldn't give the baby back. So they went before Solomon, right? And no one, they argued, no, it's my baby, no, it's my baby. How are you going to tell? They couldn't do DNA, right? How are you going to tell? Solomon was pretty wise. Solomon said, well, bring me a sword, chop the baby in half, and we'll give half to each. Interestingly, the one mom said, no, don't chop the baby in half, she can have the baby. Even more interesting to me than that, the other mom said, yeah, go ahead and chop the baby in half. Now that's pretty nasty, And, Solomon had enough ability to listen to what was happening, right? To discern who the mom was. Now he could pay attention to the response of those women to the idea of cutting that baby in half, and knew immediately who the real mom was. See? And so he exercised a listening heart at that point. So certainly listening to God and being obedient to God, but also listening to what's around you, right? Do you really hear? And, you can have people that you're leading talking to you, but are you really hearing? But there's something even beyond that that's interesting in this text. Solomon asked for a listening heart. And God said, okay, this is great. You asked for a heart of discernment to hear justice. And so God said, I gave you a what? In verse 12.
Special kind of heart.
It was special. Pardon?
Wise.
I gave you a wise heart. There is a connection in this passage between wisdom and listening. There's a connection in this passage between wisdom, and push it a little further, and obedience. There is a connection between wisdom and obedient listening in this passage. That's great counsel for those in leadership, isn't it? That's great counsel for parents. That's great counsel for grandparents. You want to be wise with your kids? You want to be wise with your grandkids? You want to be wise with people in your church? Whomever, right? Where does wisdom flow from? A heart that listens in obedience. Amen. I hear you. Now, don't you? That you never get that very powerful point. Maybe, very likely, a point that's not missed by the author. You'd never even get that powerful point in English, could you? Not in a million years.
I've read the Message.
Maybe the Message got it. So
I think I deleted the Message.
it's pretty exciting to look at the text and see that, right? Now, let me ask you if you're hearing on this level. I know that you were working through this and you're overwhelmed by each word. Right? I understand that. But you see what happens when you get to the point where you're not so overwhelmed by each word? You begin to read it and see and go, hey, there's a shift of vocabulary here from Shema to Chacham. What happened? And so now the concept of wise has been put in the slot where we were having hearing. Why? because there's a connection between the two. So, can you hear on that level as you learn to look at Hebrew Bible and get what's there? You know what I mean? Because it would not have been very hard to translate those verses, those 4 verses, right? And be so wrapped up in each word and the vocabulary and all that kind of stuff that you didn't back up and notice what was really happening in there. I know it's hard now where you are, because you are, deeply involved in every word and every letter and every jot and tittle, literally, because those are Hebrew things, jots and tittles. But hopefully that will motivate you to get to the point where that you're not walking in mud that's so deep, right? You always have mud on your soles, probably, but if it's not up to your knees, then the slogging gets a little easier, and then you can see some things like that. The thing that's great about Hebrew Bible is that there is that kind of beauty, and that really, to me, that's astonishing beauty in this text, isn't it? And there's that kind of beauty all over the Hebrew Bible, if you're reading it in Hebrew. These little nuggets that are there that just, they're under the surface in the English Bible. You can't get them. If you read your Hebrew Bible, then there they go. And, if I hadn't been using Hebrew in the context of my preaching, now that's not a big point I made in my sermon, and I didn't draw that comparison out in my sermon. I did other things, but if I hadn't been using Hebrew in conjunction with my sermon, never would have got something like that. It's harder though; it takes longer. You can still write a sermon without using Hebrew, but you don't get the real good stuff. All right, questions on this? Book of Ruth, then. We're getting close. We're on verse 7 out of 22. All right, Colby, you want to take verse 7?
Ruth 22, verse 7.
Huh?
Ruth 22, verse 7.
Yeah, chapter 22.
Chapter 22, verse 7. In the meantime, let's go in the same order and allow Adam to take Ruth 4, verse 7.
I think Colby should do verse 7.
Fine. Do you want me to take verse 7?
I'd appreciate it.
Verse 7 was the hard one, wasn't it?
Okay.
Very.
All right. Well, let's let Adam. Let's see. You see how Adam does on this, all right? He might need some help.
And this.
Very good.
Face. In the face.
Maybe in concept of before.
Oh yeah. Toward this. Toward for face.
Well, okay. And then what's the next word? Huh?
In Israel.
In Israel. Let's stop there for a second. Okay. That's not going to make sense if we say in this before in Israel. Lifnei usually means in the presence of or before in a spatial sense.
Okay.
Strangely enough, if you look at all the uses of lifnei, or lifnaim, as we have it here, you find out that it also means before, not only in a spatial sense, but in a temporal sense. Before. Just like the word English can mean before, the word before in English can mean before in a spatial sense and before in a temporal sense, so can this word. So this means before in a temporal sense. It's not a very common usage of this, but here it is. So in this before in Israel. So you got to add a verb of being, and this is, and this, and it was this before in Israel.
It was this
So,
before.
and we might even say in English, and it was thus, or we might even add a like, and it was like this before in Israel.
Okay.
In other words, we're talking about a previous custom.
Okay. In Israel,
Okay.
on the something with redeeming.
Redemption. Mm-hmm.
Okay. The redemption. And the recompense.
Well, yeah, that might be fine, but you could also say exchange, redemption and exchange.
Okay. In exchange to
Now, well, you know what this is from, right?
will.
No.
What's that?
Kum means
To rise.
to rise up.
Okay.
Intransitive, right? Here, what stem is it?
It's got a potok and a dogish, which makes it PL.
Well, no. This is kind of a weird, unusual form, I think, in some crazy sense. And I think part of it's because you have the lamed there, but you have a hifil, and we'll let Colby check us on this, but I believe you have a hifil infinitive construct, to cause to rise.
Okay.
So in this context, I mean that's literally what it means, but in this context it would be to cause to rise up, and then if you go down every matter, right? So to cause every matter to rise up, well, it's not really rise up, it's to affirm every matter, or kind of like, it's almost like the idea of getting a receipt.
Okay.
So when it comes to redemption, in the terms of the kinsman redeemer, levirate marriage, and exchange, here's how business deals were done, in other words,
Okay.
and the levirate marriage. Okay. Shalaf is the word for drawing a sword, which is kind of interesting.
Okay.
But here it isn't applied to the sword, it's applied to the na'al. What's the na'al? The sandal. Okay.
So a man would unsheath his sandal,
Yeah. A man would whip off his sandal.
and he has given. No, he will give to
Companion, literally,
friend, neighbor.
But the person he's doing business with.
Okay.
The person that the redemption is happening between, or the exchange, or whatever. So I don't know. You could even business, not really partner, but companion, I guess is good. But the idea is the person he's doing business with.
Okay. And this
Anybody help him?
Testimony.
Okay, yeah, and this was the testimony.
was the testimony in Israel.
And what are they talking about? The testimony that this deal has been finalized. This is the deal right here. Right, so you go to the gate and you take off, you trade sandals temporarily, right, as a way of everybody sees it, and
You don't keep it and hang it on your wall or something.
probably not. Probably not, but it's kind of a formalized thing so that it can't be mistaken. Hey, I didn't really want. I wasn't. You misunderstood. I didn't want to buy that field. No. The elders and the people saw you take your sandal off. We heard what you said. How many shekels you were going to give for this, and you took your sandal off. It's kind of like you signed on the dotted line.
I think we should go back to that sandal.
All right, good. That is kind of a hard verse until you get a hold of it, and then it's a piece of cake.
Once you know it.
Well, they're all like that. Once you know it, it's easy. All right, who's next to do verse 8? How come he gets the short ones every time? Colby? You want to do one, Colby?
We'll help you along. Like my Yomer, that means and he's.
Yeah.
And then what he in the specific sense is the Redeemer.
Okay, Hagoel, that's right. And the Redeemer said, La Boaz.
Two Boaz.
Good. Kane.
Purchase.
Yeah.
Yeah, for yourself. And then there's the
Unsheath your foot.
sheath the foot word again.
Well,
Yeah.
sandal.
Unsheath your So
No, well, and he took off
and he took
his sandal. So how would you parse Kane?
Yeah, Colby. When you go to Shema in the first root letter, and that's significant to some people.
not significant enough for me.
Can't parse it? You know which one I'm looking at?
Yeah, I can't.
You can't parse it?
Just hover over it. If you go around,
I mean, I can hover over.
Hover over
I
it.
could go cheat.
Cheat.
you're not in the class. You're a textbook.
I don't even know what I'm looking for when it hovers. I'm cheating.
Look in the bottom left. Yeah. Like a little taskbar spot down there.
I don't know.
You're in the wrong
Can you help him?
name right now. Help him.
Anybody help him parse that?
Can't find the look.
Go take a look. Show me how to do it.
It looks remarkably like a heel. With
This is sorry.
Put your hair.
There's another job.
Oh, I accidentally closed it when I switched it.
Good point, Kim.
Looks like it's
there's no doggy.
Yeah, but there's no Hirik under the first root letter either. Shiva under the first root letter is very significant.
Beautiful, how's it?
Cal imperative master.
There you go.
I didn't know. Okay.
There you go.
That makes sense now.
good.
I thought I was trying to look on what pops up when it hovers.
Go ahead and there too.
So I don't even know how to cheat.
See what happened?
I don't know.
Cal imperative. How do you form the imperative? You take the performative off of the imperfect form. And the imperfect form in the Cal, many of them have a Shiva. In fact, all of them have the Shiva under the first root letter.
What are you talking about?
The seri comes along because you have, weak. You have weak vowel and the makaf is joined to the next word and all that kind of stuff. So you know with the seri. Everybody understand why that's an imperative?
Because of the Shema on the first root letter.
This is in the context he's telling you, no, you do it.
You might.
Not it.
All right, verse 9.
And Boaz said to the elders,
How do you know there's a V in there?
because the performative prepositional thingy. And there's a doggish with that.
There's a doggish in the Zion. That's because there's an article there. What else is there because there's an article there?
The patak under the lamed.
What would you have if there were no article? Shiva. Everybody see that? So he's exactly right. To the elders. Now, we need the elders in English anyway, but it is there in Hebrew too.
To the oldies,
The elders.
but goodies. And people, or is it and every person, or all people? All the people.
Keep
all,
going.
All the people witnessing.
Well, okay, all the
All
people,
the people witnessing.
comma. And he said to the others and all the people,
Witnesses.
okay, Yoda. Witnesses you are.
You are.
That's how
Pretty
soon we're gonna find the force and they can be quiet. I invite not. Redeem not.
Off your shoe tank.
Okay, so you are witnesses. You said no.
You must. Okay. Yo. Today,
Okay, so you are witnesses today.
yeah, we're witnesses today because, or for, I am buying, or let's see, blank, no performative. I have thought.
Okay, I bought.
I thought to. And I thought it did all.
Yeah, but you have le Elimelech. So you have the prepositional prefix. So, everything, I bought everything which, for Elimelech, literally. We might want to say in English, I bought everything which what? Belonged to Elimelech.
Which belonged to Elimelech. And faith. And brother.
Don't skip along. And 8.
Is that the
Yes.
huh?
Yeah, it's the same thing you just had just a moment ago. But you had at, but now you get the 8.
Oh. And the brother, and all this which belonged to Kilion and
Machlon.
or Machlon.
Yeah. So,
Which is in Star Wars, the Battle of Machlon.
that's right. You're a witness today that I bought everything which belonged to Elimelech and everything which belonged to Kilion and Machlon.
Yeah, which was from the hand of Naomi.
Excellent. All right. That's good. Verse 10.
I guess that's it.
Yeah.
And even, or also,
Mm-hmm.
Ruth, the Moabitess, which Mahlon.
Okay, read that first word of that line more carefully.
And
Are you talking about
oh yeah,
Eshet?
Asia. Yeah, that's not Asher.
Right.
So and also Ruth, the Moabitess, wife of
You are so good.
Not quite purchased, but
Why not? Yeah.
Well, that's what it says.
Part of the deal.
for myself,
Yep.
to me.
Well, kinsman redeemer here, right? Women didn't have the right to vote.
For
Yep.
So for my wife? Would that be-
Well, the my isn't in there, but for myself, for a wife. Obviously, for myself, for my wife, and you're not adding anything that isn't there in some sense, but I mean, my wife isn't really there.
Right.
You're doing well.
This one was something to do to stand or something like that, the name of the dead.
Yeah, well, it's from cum to rise up, and this makes it transitive to, so to raise up.
To rise up the name of the dead.
Or, even establish or whatever, so they don't lose their inheritance, that's the idea, okay?
As my inheritance?
No.
Or as?
All as well. Here you might even say over, concerning the word, but over, to raise up a name of the dead, over, on upon, maybe even over.
He's thinking you should.
To raise up the name of the dead over.
Over inheritance, over his inheritance.
That's right. But upon his inheritance isn't outlined either. Why? Because we're talking essentially about land here. We're to raise up a name upon his inheritance, upon his land. So that works too.
And this is a negation, but we could raise.
Correct.
Oh, and so, and will not cut off the name of the dead.
Close. Now let's try to parse yikare.
Or I will not.
No.
Oh, that's 3. And that's so he.
That's right. Now, okay, so it's 3ms, and it's an imperfect. But what stem is it? Comments under the first root letter, dogish in the first root letter. What would the dogish represent?
Something that was there at one point, but is not
Which,
there
yeah,
now.
that's right. Which would be
Noon, maybe?
right, and noon is going to indicate what stem?
Nifal.
Exactly. So we have a nifal imperfect, 3ms from karat, to cut off, and then the nifal is to what? What's the significance of the nifal? Nifal makes the cow.
I forget.
Is it intensive?
Passive. Okay.
Oh, and it will not be cut off, or the name of the dead man will
There
not
you go. The name of the dead man will not be cut off.
from him?
Well, from
Maybe.
something.
Is that from with?
No. Eem. Little help?
From all?
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
From Now, Eem would be with if it were an olive, but an ayin name, people.
Okay. From his people then?
No.
Or
Ach. Early vocabulary word. Ach.
Oh, that's brother, right?
Okay.
So
And
from
the
his
name.
brothers?
Yes,
Or-
from his brother. And the name of the dead man will not be cut off from his brother.
And so we don't really translate the people there, or?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just sorry. I just skipped over. From the people of his brother.
Oh, okay. From the people of his brother. And from the gates, or from the
That's right.
entry.
That's right. Yeah, Kate.
From which, so literally, to coom, right? To come up.
Well, makom.
Or
It probably is from kum, but it's the very word makom.
rise up, right? Or to. So from this place or from this standing place?
Well, you got to do sha'ar. So the name of the dead will not be cut off from the people of his brother.
In the place of the gate? Or from the.
From
I remember we struggled with this.
yeah, well, it's very idiomatic, right?
I mean, like position,
Well, I think the
Birthplace is what.
Yeah, that's what the NAS or.
your standing place at the gate, but your position, how high up you are, I think.
It literally is.
CDB says what, standing place?
That's actually plural brothers because of the segol. So from the people of his brothers and from the gate of his place, literally. Now, you got to understand the background of that. You know, his place is where he belongs, and that's why somebody might call it a hometown or something, right? And they also might call it a hometown because the gate is really talking about the city gate where they did business, right? So it might even be a double entendre here that, the gate is where you entered and came in. If you belonged, you got to come in, right? But there's also where official business was done. So that's why you might see it translated the court of his hometown, right? But his name is not cut off from his inheritance. It will be as if he lived and had kids and then died. That's the idea. So the gate of his place really is talking probably about his belongingness, but also official, his official standing and the other his children.
They even gives kind of the hint of sleeping place.
Yeah.
I don't know. Interesting.
Just, where he belonged, his hometown, his hood. All right, good. Now it gets easy.
You are witnesses today.
Good.
Phew.
Nice. Yeah, when you get to kind of the idiomatic stuff, it's a little bit tough. That's where you have to kind of start taking deep breaths and, get a focal point and all that kind of stuff to be good. All right. Verse 11.
I guess I would do it.
Mm-hmm. You do it.
Layomer move. They said, all the people that were in the gate, at the gate,
Mm-hmm.
and said all the people at the gate and the old guys witnesses we are witnesses.
And they said, and the elder witnesses also said, all the people at the gate and the elder witnesses said,
We're witnesses.
No. All the people at the gate and the elder witnesses said, and now go on.
May Yahweh give the woman who is going
Good. Cal participle. Awesome.
to your house.
Uh-huh.
Oh wait, that's a noun.
Rachel.
Rachel.
Rachel, there you go, Rachel.
How come Rachel's full? And
Ka Rachel is going to be what?
what?
What is, now we know that Rachel is Rachel, but what is Ka Rachel?
Like Rachel.
Like Rachel.
And like Leah.
Good.
This is just like Star Wars. Yeah, you don't know yet. Okay. With that which built
Or who, because they're people. Who
or
built.
who that's two. Who built two.
Well, and Ham was what?
Oh, the two who built the house in Bethlehem?
Well, the two of them.
Two of them.
Shetei Ham. You see that Ham?
Okay.
You got a 2FS suffix. Chem is masculine, Hem is feminine, right? So the two of them. So like Rachel and Leah, who, the two of them, built, go ahead, Beit Israel.
In Israel.
Beit.
Oh, wow. House.
The house.
In Israel.
The house of Israel.
Of Israel.
And we're not moving on until you tell me what the pun is here.
Till I tell you what?
Somebody tell me what the pun is here. There's a pun. A play on words. Rachel.
And Leah. From
Leah. Israel. Built the house of Israel. Genesis.
He gave birth to the 12 sons, which became the 12 tribes of Israel. That became the nation of Israel.
And Jacob's name
Was Israel.
was changed to Israel. So they built the house of Israel, right?
They didn't actually give birth to all 12.
Yeah, but 12 sons and blah, but literally they built the house of Israel. Jacob, right? So there's a nice little play on words right here, right? See that? All right. Asa.
To do or to make.
Okay. Chayil.
Life.
No.
Or strength.
Strength. Now the question is, who is doing?
Yes.
So how would you parse that? Colby, give us some help on that.
How would you parse it?
I think it'll surprise you.
Which one are you talking about?
We're talking about va'aseh.
Well, we got something going on because it's not a Shabbat under the law.
Not a Shabbat under the vav, that's right.
And if it's articulate.
But there is a Shabbat under the ayin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Katef patak, because you can't have just plain Shabbat under a guttural. So you've got a Shabbat under the ayin there.
So that's the first root letter.
Huh?
I'm not following.
Count back from the end of verse 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words. You see va'aseh.
How's it spelled?
It's the word right after Yisrael.
May you be strong.
No, we can get this.
It would be a conjunction verb.
Well, there is a conjunction on that verb, that's right.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's a conjunction, and it's a imperative masculine singular.
Cal imperative. There you go. See? It's a cal imperative.
That's how you spell cow.
3ms, QAL. Yeah. There you go.
That's qual.
Cal. Cal imperative. Okay, 3ms. So we're back to Yahweh. Remember we said, may He give.
Right.
Right. And now imperative, but we're going to call it may He since we're commanding God, and we don't want to do that, right? We're going to say, and may He make or do strength.
Ephrata.
That's right.
That's a city or something, right?
Region.
Region.
And kara, same parsing.
Prosper you there? Or get
No. Kara. It's an early vocab word too, probably. Kara.
Call out.
Call out.
Shame.
Shame.
Name.
Okay, so call out a name. You know, it's having to do with make a reputation.
Read the next word.
Oh, in Bethlehem.
There you go.
Remember
Remember Bethlehem, Ephrathah? Ephrata, or however you say that in English. Yeah, okay, very good. Notice these imperatives we're getting. And the shavaz under the first root letter are indicators that we're looking at an imperative at that point. 3ms, that works, right? All right. This is harder stuff than what we had in 1 Kings, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I'd agree. I can't say I'm looking forward to the final right now.
All right. Now, here we have vihi. What are we used to seeing? We're used to saying vayahi. Right? And so this is different. I think it's because we have adjective here. So vihi, I'm going to say, and may it be in your house. like the house of Perez, who Yaladah, what does that mean?
Judah.
No, that's Yehuda.
Bear.
That's right. Who bore Yalad, so this is blank so it's a perfect, Cal perfect 3FS from Yalad to bear, right? See that? And you know, you're gearing up to parse, right, on that final, so you're going to have to look at a word like that and say, okay, Cal perfect 3MS from Yalad to bear or beget, or you just said to bear or to beget, either one would be fine, right? You can do that, right? All right. So, like the house of Perez, who bore Tamar. Now we have Lehuda, Tamar to Judah, and remember, Ephratah is a region in Judah where Bethlehem is, right?
Tamar is the subject of Yaladah, is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Tamar bore Perez, I think, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I didn't think that sounded right in my mind, but I didn't take time to correct myself. All right. From the seed or the offspring which Yahweh will give to you from the from this young lady. So, and may there be in your house like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore for Judah, from the descendants whom Yahweh will give to you from this young lady. Make sense? And now I have a question. I'm questioning myself because if you look at the left-hand margin where the 7 is, up halfway up that page, the very last word in verse on that line, the first line of verse 7, La Kayim. Do you see that? And then we had down here Kum again, and that clearly was in the infinitive. Now I'm trying to find where we had Lakum before. If anybody sees it, let me know. There, he's raising up. To raise up a name. That's right. Okay, it's in verse 10. It's just right under. It's right under the 10 in the middle of the line to the right. You see it right there. La Hakim. Now that's going to be a Hifil infinitive construct from Kum, which was what I called this one up here, and the form's different. So now, and I think I was thinking of this one down here when we got to this one. So I think I'm wrong about that. Now, La Kiyam is going to be something other than, and I haven't yet